The land of Egypt lay beneath a blazing sun, its golden sand stretching endlessly toward the horizon. The great Nile River, once full of life and movement, now flowed weakly, its waters shrinking day by day. For generations, the people of Egypt had depended on this river. It was their lifeline. Their source of water. Their source of food. Their source of survival. Without the Nile, the land would dry. Crops would fail. Life itself would begin to disappear. But something was wrong. The river had slowed. The water levels were dropping. And fear began spreading among them. In the villages along the Nile, people gathered near the riverbanks, staring at the water with worry in their eyes. "This is not normal," one man said. "The river should be rising by now." Another replied quietly, "It has happened before." The words carried a sense of dread. Because the older people remembered something that the newer generation had only heard about. An ancient tradition. A dark practice. A belief that had existed long before Islam reached their land. Every year, they claimed, the Nile required a sacrifice. A human sacrifice. A young girl would be chosen. Prepared. Dressed in beautiful clothing. Then taken to the river. And thrown into its waters. Only then, they believed, would the Nile rise again. Only then would life return. It was a belief rooted in ignorance. A tradition built on fear. But now, as the water levels continued to fall, whispers of that old practice began to return. "We must do it again," some said. "The river will not rise otherwise." Others hesitated. "But Islam has come," one man argued. "We cannot return to such things." The tension grew. The people were divided. Between fear and faith. At the center of this growing concern was the governor of Egypt. Amr ibn al-As, may Allah be pleased with him. He had been appointed to govern the land under the rule of the Muslims. A man of intelligence. A man of strength. But now he faced a challenge unlike any battle. Because this was not a war against an enemy. This was a struggle against an idea. A belief deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. One day, a group of locals came to him. Their faces were serious. Their voices carried urgency. "O Amr ibn al-As, may Allah be pleased with him," they said. "The Nile will not flow unless we perform what we used to do." He looked at them carefully. "And what is that?" he asked. They explained the practice. The sacrifice. The girl. The river. Amr ibn al-As, may Allah be pleased with him, listened in silence. Then he shook his head firmly. "This will never happen in Islam," he said. His voice was strong. Decisive. Because he understood something clearly. Islam had come to remove such. To end such ignorance. To protect life. Not to sacrifice it. Days passed. Then weeks. But the river did not rise. Instead, the water continued to fall. The land began to feel the effects. Farmers grew worried. Fields started drying. The people became restless. The whispers grew louder. "If we do not act, we will lose everything." Some began secretly discussing bringing back the old ritual. Fear was beginning to overpower faith. Amr ibn al-As, may Allah be pleased with him, knew that the situation was becoming dangerous. Not just for the land, but for the belief of the people. If they returned to such practices, it would be a step backward. A return to darkness. He needed guidance. Guidance from someone whose wisdom and faith were unmatched. So he decided to write a letter. A letter that would travel across the desert. A letter addressed to the leader of the Umar ibn al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him. The man known for his strength. His justice. His unwavering faith. In the letter, Amr ibn al-As, may Allah be pleased with him, explained everything. The condition of the Nile. The fear of the people. The pressure to return to the old ritual. And the danger of what might happen if the river did not rise. He sent the letter quickly. Days passed. Then more days. The people of Egypt continued watching the river. Waiting. Hoping. Fearing. Some began to lose patience. Some began to lose hope. But Amr ibn al-As, may Allah be pleased with him, remained firm. He refused to allow the old practice to return. No matter how strong the pressure became. Then finally, a reply arrived. The letter from Umar ibn al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, had reached Egypt. Amr ibn al-As, may Allah be pleased with him, held the letter in his hands. The people gathered around him. Waiting. Wondering. What would the leader of the Muslims say? What solution would he offer? Would he send supplies? Would he send help? Would he give instructions? Amr ibn al-As, may Allah be pleased with him, opened the letter. But as he began to read, his expression changed. Because the letter did not contain what anyone expected. It was not long. It was not complicated. But it carried something powerful. A message. That was not meant for the people. And not even meant for him. It was meant for the river itself. And what was written in that letter would soon show the people of Egypt a truth they would never forget. A truth about who truly controls the flow of water. And who holds power over all things. The crowd gathered closely around Amr ibn al-As, may Allah be pleased with him, as he held the letter in his hands. The air was filled with tension, and every eye was fixed upon him. The people expected a solution. They expected instructions. They expected something practical. Something they could act upon immediately. But as Amr ibn al-As, may Allah be pleased with him, read the letter silently, his expression shifted. It was not what they had imagined. He read it once. Then again. Carefully. Because the words were simple. But the meaning behind them was powerful. He lowered the letter slightly and looked at the people around him. This is from Umar ibn al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, he said. The crowd leaned closer. What does he say? Someone asked. Amr ibn al-As, may Allah be pleased with him, took a breath. Then he began to read aloud. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. The people listened in silence. Then came the words that would echo in their hearts. From the servant of Allah, Umar ibn al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, the leader of the believers. To the Nile of Egypt. A murmur spread through the crowd. To the Nile, someone whispered. Confusion appeared on many faces. Why would a letter be addressed to a river? Amr ibn al-As, may Allah be pleased with him, continued reading. If you flow by your own will, then do not flow. The people looked at one another. The words were strange. Unusual. But he continued. And if you flow by the command of Allah, then we ask Allah, the One, the Almighty, to make you flow. Silence fell over the crowd. The message was clear. Simple. Direct. It was not a command to the people. It was not a negotiation with tradition. It was a declaration of belief. A reminder that the river did not control itself. That nature itself had no independent power. That everything in existence moves only by the will of Allah. For a moment, no one spoke. The people tried to understand what they had just heard. Some were confused. Some were unsure. But others felt something different. A realization. A shift in perspective. Amr ibn al-As, may Allah be pleased with him, folded the letter carefully. Then he spoke with calm certainty. We will do as he has instructed. The people watched as he walked toward the river. Step by step. The crowd followed behind him. Some curious. Some doubtful. Some hopeful. They reached the banks of the Nile. The water moved slowly. Weakly. Nothing like the powerful river they had known. Amr ibn al-As, may Allah be pleased with him, stood at the edge. He looked at the water for a moment. Then he took the letter in his hand. Without hesitation, he placed it into the river. The paper touched the surface. Then slowly disappeared beneath the water. That was it. No ritual. No sacrifice. No ceremony. Just a letter. And trust in Allah. The people stood in silence. Waiting. Watching. But nothing happened immediately. The river did not suddenly rise. The water did not change. The current remained the same. Some began to whisper. Is that all? Nothing has changed. Doubt began creeping into the hearts of some. Because they expected something dramatic. Something instant. But Amr ibn al-As, may Allah be pleased with him, did not show any concern. He turned away from the river calmly. Return to your homes, he said. And he walked away. The people slowly began to leave. Some hopeful. Some uncertain. Some still holding on to their old fears. That night, Egypt fell into silence. The river flowed quietly under the darkness of the sky. The stars above reflected softly on its surface. Nothing appeared different. Nothing seemed to have changed. But something unseen had already begun. Because when a matter is left in the hands of Allah, the result does not depend on human expectation. It depends on divine command. Morning came. The sun began to rise over the land of Egypt. Light spread across the fields. Across the homes. Across the river. And when the people came to the banks of the Nile that morning, what they saw would leave them speechless. The river was no longer the same. The water had risen. Not slightly, but dramatically. The Nile was flowing again. Strong. Powerful. Alive. The dry banks were now filled. The current moved with force. As if the river had been awakened. As if life had returned in a single night. The people stood in disbelief. What happened? How is this possible? They looked at the river. Then at each other. And slowly, the truth began to settle in their hearts. This was not the result of a ritual. Not the result of sacrifice. Not the result of human action. This was the command of Allah. The one who controls the rivers. The one who controls the one who controls all things. And in that moment, a belief that had existed for generations began to break. But the full impact of what had just happened had not yet fully reached their hearts. The news spread quickly across the land of Egypt. From village to village. From market to market. From one gathering to another. People spoke about what had happened to the Nile. The river that had nearly stopped was now flowing stronger than before. The dry banks were filled. The fields were receiving water again. Life had returned. But what truly amazed the people was not just the water. It was how it happened. No sacrifice. No ritual. No offering. Just a letter. A simple letter placed into the river. And everything changed. Men stood by the banks of the Nile, watching the water move with force. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others stood in silence, trying to understand. How can this be? One man asked. We did nothing, another replied. An older man, who had lived through many years of the old traditions, spoke slowly. For generations, we believed that the Nile demanded a sacrifice. He paused. But now, there was no sacrifice. And yet the river flows stronger than ever. The words carried weight. Because they were not just observations. They were realizations. Deep ones. The kind that change how a person sees the world. Nearby, a group of younger men spoke among themselves. "This means something," one of them said. "It means the river was never in our control." Another added quietly. "It means it was never dependent on what we did." They looked toward the water again. "And it means, it belongs to Allah." That was the truth that had begun settling into their hearts. A truth that Islam had brought. That everything in existence moves only by the command of Allah. The river does not flow because of human rituals. The sky does not send rain because of superstition. Life does not depend on false beliefs. Everything is in the hands of Allah. And now, for the first time, the people of Egypt were seeing that truth with their own eyes. Meanwhile, Umar ibn al-As, may Allah be pleased with him, observed the changes quietly. He watched as the people gathered at the river. He listened to their conversations. He saw the shift in their thinking. The fear that once controlled them was slowly being replaced by faith. And that was the true victory. Not just the return of water, but the removal of ignorance. Days passed, and the story continued spreading. Travelers carried it to distant regions. Merchants spoke about it in other lands. Scholars reflected on it. And wherever the story went, it carried a powerful message. That no force in this world operates independently. Everything is under the command of Allah. Some of the people who had once insisted on returning to the old ritual now felt ashamed. They remembered their fear. Their doubts. Their willingness to return to something that Islam had come to remove. One of them stood by the river one evening, watching the water flow. He spoke quietly to the man beside him. "We were ready to sacrifice a life." He looked down. For something that was never even true. The other man nodded. "Because we were afraid," he said. And fear makes people hold on to false things. They both looked at the river again. But now, the first man said, "We have seen the truth." The transformation was not just in the river. It was in the hearts of the people. The belief that had existed for generations had been broken in a single night. Not by force. Not by argument. But by a clear sign. A sign that left no room for doubt. And at the center of that moment was a man far away from Egypt. Umar ibn al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him. The leader who had written a letter. Not to the people. Not to the governor. But to the river itself. Not because the river could read. But because the message was not for the river. It was for the people. A reminder that everything in existence is under the command of Allah. That belief spread deeply. And as it spread, something else became clear. This was not just a story about a river. It was a lesson. A lesson about reliance on Allah. A lesson about removing false beliefs. A lesson about understanding where true power lies. And those lessons would remain long after the moment had passed. But there was still something more to understand. Because the story of the Nile was not only about what happened that night. It was about what it meant. And how it would continue shaping the way people understood their faith for generations to come. The river continued to flow with strength as the days passed, its waters now filling the land with life once again. Fields that had begun to dry were now green, farmers returned to their work with relief, and the fear that had once spread across Egypt slowly faded away. But something far greater than water had changed. The hearts of the people were no longer the same. For generations, they had lived with a belief that controlled their actions. A belief that had convinced them that the Nile demanded sacrifice. That without it, life would stop. And because of that belief, they had once been willing to do something unthinkable. To sacrifice a life. To throw a young girl into the river. all in the hope that the water would rise. But now that belief had been broken. Not through force. Not through punishment. But through truth. A simple message had shown them something they had never fully understood before. That the river did not belong to them. That it did not respond to their rituals. That it did not depend on their actions. It belonged to Allah. And it moved only by His command. This realization began to spread deeper among the people. Scholars spoke about it in gatherings. Fathers explained it to their children. Mothers reminded their families of what had happened. The story of the Nile became more than just an event. It became a lesson. A lesson that touched every part of their lives. Because once a person understands that everything is controlled by Allah, their fear begins to change. They no longer fear false beliefs. They no longer fear superstitions. They begin to fear only Allah. And that fear is not like the fear of the unknown. It is a fear that brings peace. A fear that brings clarity. A fear that removes confusion. One evening, as the sun began to set over the Nile, a group of men sat together near the riverbank. They watched the water move calmly in front of them. One of them spoke quietly. "I remember when we believed that the river needed something from us," he said. Another man nodded. "Yes," he replied. "And now we know that we are the ones who need everything from Allah." The words carried a deep truth. Because that was the lesson hidden within everything that had happened. It was not the river that needed people. It was the people who needed Allah. Nearby, a young boy listened to their conversation. He looked at the river with curiosity. "Will the river ever stop again?" he asked. The older man smiled gently. "The river will do whatever Allah commands," he said. The boy thought for a moment. "Then we should ask Allah," he replied. The men looked at him and smiled. Because the child had understood something that had taken generations to learn. Faith. Simple. Clear. Direct. Meanwhile, far away in Medina, Umar ibn al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, continued leading the Muslim community with the same strength and sincerity. He did not witness the Nile with his own eyes. He did not stand by its banks. But his understanding of faith had reached far beyond his presence. Because leadership in Islam was not about control. It was about guidance. It was about reminding people of the truth. And sometimes, that reminder came in the simplest form. A letter. A few lines of words. But words filled with certainty. Words that carried the weight of belief. And those words had changed the thinking of an entire land. This is why the story of the Nile remained important. Not because of the water. But because of what it taught. It taught that false traditions can exist for generations. But truth can remove them in a moment. It taught that fear can control people. But faith can free them. And it taught that no matter how strong a belief may seem, if it is not built upon truth, it will eventually fall. As the night covered Egypt once again, the river continued to flow under the light of the stars. Calm. Steady. Unchanged. But the people who stood beside it were no longer the same. Because they had seen something with their own eyes. Something that could not be denied. A clear sign. A reminder. That everything in existence belongs to Allah. And moves only by His command. But the greatest lesson of this story was still waiting. Because what remained was not just the memory of what happened, but the understanding of why it mattered. The story of the Nile did not end with the rising of the water. It continued in the hearts of the people. In their conversations. In their understanding of faith. And in the way they began to see the world around them. Because what had happened was not just a moment. It was a transformation. A shift from fear to certainty. From superstition to truth. From dependence on false beliefs. To complete reliance on Allah. The river flowed as it always had. Strong. Steady. Life-giving. But now, every time the people looked at it, they saw something more than water. They saw a reminder. A reminder that no force in this world acts on its own. That nothing has power except what Allah gives it. And that belief began shaping their lives in ways they had never experienced before. Farmers who once feared the river now turned to Allah in their prayers. Families who once spoke of rituals now spoke of trust. Children who once heard stories of sacrifice now learned about faith. The change was deep. Real. Lasting. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned shades of gold and red, a man stood by the river with his son. The boy looked at the flowing water, then turned to his father. "Is this the river that stopped?" he asked. "Yes," the father replied. "And is this the river that started again because of the letter?" The father smiled gently. "It started again because of Allah," he said. The boy thought for a moment. "Then why did they put the letter?" he asked. The father looked at the water before answering. "The letter was not for the river," he said. "It was for the people." The boy remained quiet, trying to understand. "So that they would remember," the father continued. "That everything belongs to Allah." The boy nodded slowly. And in that moment, a new generation understood what the old generation had once struggled to accept. That truth does not come from tradition. It comes from revelation. Meanwhile, far away in Medina, Umar ibn al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, continued living a life of humility and responsibility. He never saw the Nile rise with his own eyes. He never stood among the people who witnessed the change. Yet his understanding of faith had reached them. Because true leadership is not measured by presence. It is measured by impact. And the impact of that letter had gone far beyond a single event. It had removed a belief that had lasted for generations. It had protected innocent lives. And it had strengthened the faith of an entire people. When the companions later spoke about Umar ibn al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, they did not only speak about his strength. They spoke about his clarity. His ability to distinguish truth from falsehood. And his unwavering trust in Allah. Because when he wrote that letter, he did not doubt. He did not hesitate. He did not try to find a compromise between truth and tradition. He simply reminded them of one thing. That Allah is the one who controls everything. And that was enough. The story of the Nile remains a powerful lesson. A lesson for every time. A lesson for every place. Because even today, people hold on to beliefs that are not true. They fear things that have no power. They rely on things that cannot benefit them. And they forget the one who controls all things. But this story reminds us of something important. When a person turns back to Allah. When they place their trust in Him completely. When they leave behind false beliefs. The result is always clarity. Always peace. Always truth. The Nile did not need a sacrifice. It never did. It only needed the command of Allah. And just like that river, everything in our lives flows only by His will. And that is the greatest lesson of all. That no matter how strong something may seem, no matter how deeply rooted a belief may be, if it is not built on truth, it can be changed. And when truth replaces it, everything begins to flow again. Just like the Nile.